Now go sit your ass down. Between him and Joe, I ain't got but 20 minutes left. Hey y'all, my name's Jule. I'm an alcoholic. I'm a drug addict. And I got a few more things I can't talk about in public. Oh, and by the way, Doc ain't got but one friend. And that's long as he pay. I think I just want to tell y'all a little something about this alcoholic and drug addict thing. I'm both. And I found out that Alcoholics Anonymous gave Narcotics Anonymous the 12 steps. I got the letter from Bill W. to this lady, one of the founders named Annie T., and they have our steps. And the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous is supreme. They're the best medicine for what I have. I have a disease called alcoholism. And I want to just tell you that a disease is a disease because the symptoms affect each of the sufferers the same way, and the treatment of that disease affects each of the sufferers the same way. Hint, hint. I'm from Savannah, Georgia. I was born in 1953. That's about a year before. That's about 14 years before Bob got sober. And I'm just glad that Bill and Dr. Bob came up with this, because 32 years later, I needed it, and it was here. I didn't have a bad childhood, although I want to tell you that my grandfather was a moonshiner, and my daddy was his drinking buddy. And my grandmother made some of the best peach brandy this side of the Mississippi River. I did not see alcohol. However, I saw what it was doing. Mr. Spider was the neighborhood drunk, and he stank. He was uncouth, and my grandmama would give him wine through the kitchen window. And they used to threaten me and my brother with letting Mr. Spider in the house if we were bad, we were afraid of him. You know, my granddaddy was a preacher, and alcohol just took that from him. Just took it. I seen it. I was coming home from second grade with my two new friends one day, and my father was leaving. And I wanted him to meet my two friends. And I asked him where was he going. He picked me up, I introduced him to my friends, and he put me down and he said he'd be back. Well, he didn't come back. And this might seem kind of hokey. I had to go through elementary school PTAs with just one parent. And kids in elementary school can be kind of abusive. Where's your daddy? Where's your daddy? And I developed a resentment at my daddy because he wasn't there. And I developed a resentment at my mom because I had a theory that she had something to do with it. I stayed angry with my father, and I would not talk to my mother. Whenever she disciplined me, I was quiet because I was afraid if I said anything, I would let that anger out about her having something to do with my daddy being missing. One night, I guess I was about 8 years old, my mother and my grandfather had an argument, and we were put out of the house. It felt like we were being put out. We wouldn't stay with my mom, took us to my godmother, and we ended up in a housing project. We grew up in the suburbs. We grew up in the burbs in a house. And now me and my brother are latchkey kids, and my mom's trying to do what she do. Now I'm angry at my surroundings, and my job was to make y'all think everything was all right. And so I got my lesson. I did grades. I became the captain of the patrol squad at 10. In this new neighborhood, they just commandeered me. I didn't know how dangerous the neighborhood was to everybody. It's just like one of them westerns where the guy comes to town, they put a badge on him, and now he's in a gunfight. And I was that guy. I was just big, and I did all right. I took the bat from the bully, and everybody started respecting me. But what me and my brother would do, my granddaddy, you could mark time by him from Monday morning to Friday night. He would get up, go to work, come home, and he was not taking any crap from anybody. If you wanted to do something, make him mad from Monday through Friday. But Friday night to Sunday, he was a blithering idiot. He was a drunk, and we would steal his liquor, and we learned how to smoke with his unsupervised cigarettes. And I remember one night he came home drunk, and they rang the doorbell. He was a Mason, and he went to some Mason thing, and he came home drunk, and whoever brought him home rang the doorbell and left. And my grandmama was beating him with a switch because she was tired of it. And I tried to break him up, and my grandmama turned around and started beating me. I saw my grandfather try to commit suicide, and he got it wrong. He was drunk. He put the butt of the gun up against his chin and shot his toes off. So I saw alcoholism, and it was ugly to me. And it was in the 60s, and the hippies in Savannah Beach and Tybee. I got introduced to better living through chemistry, and I started doing other things, not wanting to become the ugliness that I'd seen in my house. For a long time, I didn't like how alcohol tasted, because I associated it with what was happening in my house, but I always drank it. And later on, when I joined the Navy, I'm skipping forward because Joe and Doc took my time, right? Later on, I joined the Navy, and I joined the Navy because I wanted to prove that I could drink they said sailors drank everybody under the table. So I wanted to prove that theory, and it went like it went. I got introduced to cocaine in Hawaii. I went to this terrible hellhole called Hawaii. I spent 17 months there. I got to know all of the different kinds of marijuana they had, and they just had regular American liquor, There wasn't nothing exotic about liquor on Oahu, but they had all of the stuff that you need to just get out of yourself and hide. And one of the things that this thing stayed in me. Something was up, and I just didn't know what. You know what I'm saying? I found out very early I wasn't one of the dullest knives in the drawer. I got all my lesson. I was 30 in a high school class of 260. They wanted me to go to Yale. I went to Yale, and it was snowing. I'm from Savannah. I'm not going back up there. And they put me in this college called Morehouse. It's the college that Martin Luther King went to, and a lot of smart black men end up there. And I felt kind of like I feel here. I'm in among the elite. And I was so afraid of what might happen. I didn't party. I didn't hang out. I did take advantage of a few women. but I got all my lessons. They had to come tap me on the shoulder and tell me it was time to graduate because I was just focused. I didn't want to screw up. You know, one of the traditions in the black community is that we had to get education so we'd have a chance in this country. And I really didn't want to disappoint my parents. So I focused on getting my college degree. I got a degree in political science, and it seemed like to me that was it. I did it. Now let's go party. I got familiar with all the happy hours. My favorite one was drink and drown because I'm a sailor and I wanted to show you couldn't drown me. And then this growing romance I had with cocaine just kept coming. You know, I believe that if I had never bothered drugs, I would have got to be about 50, 60 years old, and alcoholism would have got me, and it would have been very difficult to get away. But freebase cocaine body slammed me. And I mean, not physically. I wasn't poisoned or nothing like that, you know. But it does put a high demand on your income, you know. And I was working in this insurance company as a claim adjuster, and I was like, the fellows y'all call me judge now, but back then they called me Black Banachek, you know, because I could solve cases. I protected the insurance company's money, not the part where you pay claims, but where people frauded folk and stuff like that. I figured it out, and I had this supervisor, and he peeped me. You know, I would come to work, coat and tie, and at lunchtime I'd leave the coat to make them think I'm coming back, and I wouldn't come back. and at the end of the week, I'd be on the elevator with 5 coats, and I would be holding them like I'm taking them to the laundry. You know what I'm saying? And everybody knew what was up. In my mind, I'm like, they think I'm going to the laundry. At least I want to think that's what they think anyway. We think like that, you know. And you know, it got kind of out of hand, and the money got funny, and I had this relationship with a body shop, and I would sell him, I would make sure he got the salvage, you know, and we became friends, and my 73 Monte Carlo got a free Landau roof that eventually blew up. You know, you see the brothers going through the hood with the inverted sail. You know, the wind done caught the Landau, and I had one of those. You know, and I still thought I was cool. You know, and but I ended up I was pouring my sorrows away in this place called Sansuchi Lounge. It had 50-cent beer, and me and this guy, we were crying in our sorrows. He was a courier driver, and he had an extra set of keys. Somebody had given him their van keys, and it was like Dumb and Dumber, right? I got these keys, man, and I can give them my keys, and we can take these keys, take the van, and sell it. And we did it. We did it. Well, we tried to do it, okay? I took it to my friend, the body shop owner. He was already in trouble with the cops. He had drug charges, and he just gave us up. He just sacrificed our ass, man. And I'm sitting there, and you know, I'm basically this is the first crime I ever committed, and at least the one that I will not remain silent about. Long story short, I went to jail that night for trying to sell a stolen van to the police in the county that I live in the county right now where I'm a judge. And my sponsor would introduce me by saying, you don't get where I am from where I was without a divine act of providence. And I thought he was just some flowery introduction, but I looked up providence, and providence means the hand of God going before me, preparing the way, right? I was in this one room pissing the sink. a hotel with my drug dealer, and we had bought a large quantity of cocaine, and we bagged it all up to sell it, but we unbagged every bag and smoked it up. And we was down to the last bag, and he threw the bag on my chest, and it rolled down my leg and rolled out in the middle of the floor, and I looked at it, and I heard this voice say, "If you get that bag, you won't go home." And, you know, I looked over, it wasn't my guy talking to me, I just heard it. You know, you do get kind of psychotic after you. So I was gonna get it, and on my way to get it, it said, "If you pick that bag up, you won't go home." So I wouldn't pick it up. I went straight to, I wanted to go home. I've been exposed to God. I know home is important. So I decided, and I was at the end. I had been trying not to use. I remember one day, I seen this guy, Louis. Louis was an ex-Vietnam veteran with PTSD, and we would go to his house, and we would pour drinks and cook cocaine, and he would disappear and come back in full battle gear and tell everybody not to move. That we escaped from there, and I didn't see Louis no more until one day I saw him going down the street, and I followed him home. And when I got to his house, I said, "Hey, Louis, what's going on, man? I'm just that desperate. I don't care whether you're gonna put on battle gear. I won't, I know he got the deal, right?" And he said, "Man, I don't do that no more. I've been in church for 3 years." And I backed away. It was like, it was like he threw holy water on a vampire, man. And but the fact that he wasn't using no more stayed in my brain for the next about 2 or 3 years. And I was trying to stop. I remember one time that I was helping this rap group put together a video, and I tried to stay abstinent, and I thought staying abstinent was not using any drugs, and but I was drinking beer, and I was still going to happy hour. We get that big controversy about which is which in here, right? So I was going around out there before I ever even discovered y'all, thinking it was okay to drink and not use. Some of y'all got it backwards. Y'all think it's okay to use and not drink. Same shit, right? Changing seats on the Titanic, sort of, and I would leave home and go jog, trying not to let the obsession get me, right? And on the way home, I'd buy a tall Budweiser and drink it to knock myself out, so I wouldn't be suffering, And I would try all kinds of things not to use, and I didn't use for about a month, and then I wanted to go celebrate, And I finally ended up, my wife had a rider on her policy that would get a consultation for substance abuse. And we went to this lady, and I told her what was going on, and she said she had a bed for me. And I was like, the cartoons, like, what? A bed? Where does that come in, right? And I said, "Well, can I think about it?" She said, "No, if you think about it, you won't do it." And she was right. I was trying to get out of there. And then she said, no, I said to her, "Well, can I go get my clothes?" She said, "No, if you go get your clothes, you won't come back." And she was right both times. Because that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to get out of there, just like some of my clients said, "I just want this over," And I went to detox, and by the grace of God, the detox was run by an alcoholic. And he made me tell my story about 2 days in. And we were all crying, and everything was, I didn't know whether I was making progress or not. I told the truth, and everybody was crying, you know what I'm saying? I didn't know. And at the end, about 5 days in, they told me that my wife's little rider only provided for a week of detox, and I was belligerent. I was like, y'all done got me scared to leave here. Now you're telling me I gotta go. I had at least I came to the conclusion that left to my own devices, I'll go fuck up, and I did not want to leave there. Then they offered me a halfway house, and my opinion, my idea of what a halfway house is 6 or 7 drunks and junkies around this big 50-gallon can fire, and one of them got the urge to leave, and 4 of them grabbed him and tackled him and brought him back and tied him to the bed. And I just didn't want, I thought it was the lowest of lows, right? And they took me to the halfway house. And one of the things I want to tell you, though, is while I was in the detox, my first temporary sponsor came. Roy. I didn't know he was my temporary sponsor until I asked him for his phone number because the story sounded interesting. And he said, he gave me the phone number on the back of a matchbook, a paper matchbook, and he said, if you call me before you use, I'll show you how much I love you. But if you call me after you use, I'll show you how much I love me. And he made like he'd hang the phone. And that scared me, you know. So I'm already suffering from a rejection, right? My daddy left, you know, and my mom, we got put out of it. I'm already suffering from fear of rejection. Didn't even know it. So, but what it did was, I wanted to make sure I didn't drink until I seen that guy, right? He told me the AA club where he went, and by happenstance, my halfway house was almost in walking distance to the NABA club. And I went and I was trying to make sure he saw me before I got drunk, right? And one night he showed up, and he introduced me to his sponsor. And his sponsor, I got to know him, and I got 30 days, and this guy, I'll never forget his name is Bob Carver. He came out of the crowd and he gave me an application to a retreat. It's less than 2 months, man. Less than 2 months into this. And I went to that retreat, and Roy's sponsor was doing the sponsorship workshop. And I had signed this contract with the halfway house people that I would get a sponsor, go to at least 3 meetings a week. And and he was up here, right? So if I'm gonna get one, I might as well get the best, you know. So I asked him to be my sponsor, and he came to my room, and he said something to me about the steps. He said that the steps are like the scales. We're going to learn the scales, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la. We're going to learn how each note sounds. And then after a while, you'll be able to put together little tunes. And then after a while, you might even be able to put together a little simple song. But over time, you'll be able to compose whole symphonies with these steps. And that kind of intrigued me. And we started going through the steps. And my 4-step was woefully inadequate. My first 4-step was woefully inadequate. It wasn't even a whole page. But I had the right people on it. I had my father, my mother, my grandmother. I just went right in my circle of relatives, because those were all the people I were pissed at. They say we are angry with the ones we love most. And I did at least have them on there. And I did my 5th step with him that night, and we prayed. And at the end of it, he said, Jule, I got good news and I got bad news. And I'm already in the halfway house. My wife's looking at me like I farted. I got a case. I'm a criminal. And I was like, okay, that's pretty good bad news. You know what I'm saying? I asked him what the bad news was. How bad could it get, right? He said, we some sick MFs. I said, okay, all right. I said, well, what's the good news then? I could work with the bad news. He said, the sickest get the wellest. And that was one of my first rays of hope. Because I'm finna benefit from something going down, you know. If I'm one of the sickest and I'm gonna get the wellest, I'm down for that. And I just kind of bought into this process, man. And now I want to tell y'all about what I think about step 2. Step 2 is really the introduction to the solution. We got the problem. Step 1 is down. The problem is clear. I was sitting in detox, and they had, you know how they have these rollout TVs where they used to put the VCRs in and show you these old crazy videos. Well, the video was blocking the steps, and the only step I could read was step 1. And I read step 1, and I immediately agreed with it. I was powerless over alcohol, and my life had become unmanageable. I didn't know exactly what the dynamics were, but that statement was profound, and it was right on point. And step 2 really introduces you to the solution, and it tells you where you're going to go. It says we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. And in most meetings, everybody go to talking about insanity. Well, insanity is step 1. Step 2 says I'm going to be restored to sanity. I used to say it's like a mathematical formula, belief plus power equals restoration. That works pretty good too, right? But the step in and of itself implies that I'm insane. That's what it implies. And when I looked up the insane word, because back then that's what they made us do. They made us look up words so we know what these guys are talking about. And I still do that today. Sanity just means sound thinking. That's all it means. So it implies that I did not have sound thinking when I compiled all that information in my first step. All of the symptoms of my disease just denotes that I wasn't making pretty, I mean, you know, you decide to sell a stolen van to the police, that ain't good thinking. It was a good idea at the time, but really wasn't good thinking. So the steps are really going to restore my ability to think soundly. But that's a big job with someone who suffers from what I call PPSD, post-traumatic polymorphic spiritual degeneration. That's the aftermath of using. You know, to me, that's just me. You ain't gonna find that in no literature, and if you don't want to follow me from there, you're free to do that. But my spirit was dead. I didn't even know it. You know, and this thing about turning my will over to the care of God as I understand Him. You know, it's a beautiful prayer, but I just broke it down to, God, if you saved me from me, I'll tell everybody you did it. And God shook my hand with that one, you know, okay, I got you. And the 4th step, man, you know, I learned from y'all what it was about. You know, Jack, I learned that, you know, you can have as many columns as you want. And by the way, man, Jack and Bob, that's like Joe and Charlie 2.0. Them guys are good. They really are good. You guys really took me to another level with how I see things, and I really appreciate that. And I have something to take back, you know. That's what we doing, man. This crew right here, you know, y'all are high round draft choices, believe it or not. I mean, you know, regular everyday AAs don't do this. They don't do this, you know. And the cool thing is they're doing stuff like this all over the place. Retreats are everywhere. So when I did the 4th step by itself is like, you know how you used to come in the house in the dark and you bump into something and stub your toe and you don't know what it is, you're cursing and hopping around. Well, the fourth step is like turning on the light so you can see the broken glass and you can see the table jutting out and you can see all the things that get in the way of your trip through the living room. You know what I'm saying? And if the light goes out and you don't do anything about it, all that shit is still there. Tomorrow night when you come in, it might not be the glass, it might be the skate. You know what I'm saying? You know, and all it does is just show me who I am. It just shows me who I am, and you know, I get to tell somebody else about it. You know what I'm saying? And in telling somebody else about it, I at least kind of like draw the coordinates on where everything is. You know what I'm saying? You know, I know I'm a slouch. I know I'm a thief. I know I'm an adulterer. I know all these things. You know, I know I'm scared. My big thing, I had this bad problem. I was afraid to fail, and I was afraid to succeed. You know, I was both of those, and that's. Man, if we didn't have a mic and we weren't recovering, I got some nice flowery words about that situation. You know what I'm saying? And So the whole idea is to find the stuff that's objectionable to me, not objectionable to y'all. Because y'all object to everything. But I had to find the stuff that I didn't like about me. And those were two of the biggest ones. Fear of failure and fear of success, all at the same time. And in relationships, it didn't just mean working. I'm talking about in relationships. I used to be on my way out of a relationship as soon as I got into it because I was afraid you were going to find out some stuff about me that I didn't know. Because I didn't know who I was. I really didn't. I had this working idea of who I was, but I really didn't know who I was. And most of the stuff that was good about me, I was afraid of. And most of the stuff that I was afraid of it because I didn't want to, you know, I grew up in a rough neighborhood and, you know, when guys are smart, they want to beat them up for some strange reason. For guys that got their lesson, I had a trombone. My mom was trying to get me to play a trombone. And I would have to fight all the way to and from school to keep them from taking my trombone, man. I was glad when I got football age. I abandoned that sucker. Got me a leather jacket so you'd know not to fool with me, you know. And but the idea and this other thing too. You know, this process requires, you know, the cliche is that step one is the only step you got to do perfect, which means you can't use again. But what's more important is I'm going to need the same honesty that I conjured up to admit that I was powerless and unmanageable to go through the rest of the steps. I'm going to need that same honesty every step of the way. That's really what doing step one perfect is about. I have to use this honesty when I look at my character defects, when I find them. Because I won't find them on my own. That's another thing. You know, I need God to go through this. My analogy for that is, you know, I'm old enough to go back to the time when the TV actually went off, and you get this test pattern, and if you cut the TV off, the whole house is dark. And I was afraid to go from the den to the bedroom in the dark. And the best way I got through that would be my grandfather would come and take me to bed through the darkness. And I would hold his hand and I would go to bed without any trauma, you know what I'm saying? And the steps are sort of like that. I need God to kind of hold my hand while I go through this darkness that I'm afraid to find out about myself. That's why I need God. You know, I don't really need him to figure out how to become holy or nothing like that. I need him to heal. I need him to help me with my healing because I'm pretty damaged in a way that most people don't even see. You guys kind of know about it, but I'm even good at hiding it from you. You know, and This guy in the treatment in my halfway house called me a fraud, and I was kind of insulted. He called me a fraud, But what he meant was I was on purpose deceiving myself, trying to deceive you. I believe some of this shit I thought about myself, that I was getting you to see. I started buying into the fact that I was, I had the answer for cancer and all of this good shit. I started believing it, man. And the director of the treatment said, "Jule, you're a fraud." And the little lady at the AA meeting said, "Jule, we'll be glad when you get out of that doggone treatment facility so you can finally recover." And she was right, because I needed y'all. Because, a lot of those people don't even suffer from this disease. They got, 501c3s and they're doing wonderful things. They're just trying to help us, poor things, and but y'all know what's up. Y'all know what's up, and so I kind of my sponsor told me when I told him that, he said, "I want you to pray about the stuff you told me, and I want you to think about it, and you can do 6 and 7 and call me in the morning, like take 2 aspirins and call me in the morning," right? He left me in there, but something was different. Something was different that night, and it's taken me a while to be able to put my finger on it, but sticking around y'all long enough, I had done some credible stuff for me, finally. I'd done some credible stuff for me, and I'm the one that's important. I'm the one that's got this little, jelly bag full of life. It's mine. God gave it to me, and I want to live comfortably. I always wanted to be accepted, and I found out I'm the guy. I used to brag about being a lone wolf. I used to brag about it, but I really despised it. I wanted y'all to accept me, and this is the only place where I found true acceptance from my brothers, and that's why y'all can't hide stuff like this from me. And the other thing that's going on here is that, we want you to have it. We want you to have what we found. And we found some good stuff in AA. And one of my buddies called it the best thing since sliced bread, the 12 steps. That's pretty profound, If you can outdo sliced bread, you must be doing something, So I got to step 8, and I had this list, and it's from the woeful 4-step, right? It's woefully inadequate 4-step, and I had 2 amends I want to tell you all about. I had several. I made amends to my grandmama. That was comical, and I had the night I went to jail for selling a stolen van to the police, I left a $15 tab, and the halfway house didn't want me to go back there, and I had the sponsor now. And he said, "You sure you want to do that, Jule?" And I did. I wanted to pay him back their $15. That was, and I went and I paid him back the $15, came out, and I felt good about it. And I had this girl, and this was kind of like before I really got into the steps, but I heard y'all talk about making amends, and she was pretty sexy, and I had made love to her one night while she was drunk, and part of me felt bad about it, but part of me remembered how good it was. So under the auspices of making an amend, I called her, and she kind of like Scarlett's Web, she invited me over, and when I got there, she just berated me for taking advantage of her. And I didn't know how to handle it. I went crying to the meeting, and I told them I'd almost what I'd done, and they laughed at me, And they told me to call my sponsor, and I did. He said, "Do you regret what you did?" I said, "Yes, sir." And he said, "Are you going to do it again?" I said, "No, sir." He said, "Well, don't do that shit no more." That was a decent 9 and a dysfunctional 9. Okay. And I've made amends. I got these dental issues, and I would go to a dentist and have him work on my mouth. And when the bill got so high, I'd fire him and go get somebody else. And one day I told my sponsor about it, and he said, "Have you paid that guy?" I said, "No, he didn't do a good job, this, that." And, I said, "No, you got to pay that guy." So I did just like Jack said. I went over, talked to him, got a payment plan, and put it in the budget. And every month, the bill was in the tens of thousands of dollars. And I feel okay, man. I mean, it don't take much to feel okay. You know what I'm saying? Just knowing that I'm sending him that $100 right now. Right, not something I got through and it's over. The balance is still up there, but I'm at least sending him his money. And I was like everybody else. I wanted to, hit the lottery and go pay him off all at one time. That ain't happening, And I was covered up, and not even my sponsor, but one of my mentors in this program said, "Jule, your problem is you spending more than you got." He said, "If you want to get out of debt, spend less than you got." And I developed the practice of, if I can't pay for it, I'm not buying it. And my credit score has soared because of that. So it's a whole lot of stuff in there, man. And step 10 is in there because I just say, step 10 allows me to see myself coming so I can duck. Right off the top, in traffic when somebody, I remember this guy shot me a bird in traffic. I wasn't quite as spiritually mature as I am now. And I followed him across town. We was, he's a middle-aged guy, about Tim's age, and I frightened the guy, and if he had a gun, he probably would have shot me. And I pulled up next to him, and I said, "Do you know who you with?" And he apologized. And, I'm in AA. I'm one of the budding spiritual gurus in AA. I was like, "Thank you," and I drove off. But that kind of stuff is crazy, man. It's just crazy. I was still keyed up for the next 2 days because of that. And I had done gotten used to not being keyed up. It didn't feel good, And step 11 is my favorite step, man, because I had all these, I go all the way back to that voice in the room in the crack house telling me to go home. So I knew he was there. Right, and let me tell you about the second one. The second one, I was in the halfway house, and the requirement was to go to church and do 3 meetings a day. And the halfway house, and I'm just being descriptive, not judgmental. The black guy was the CEO of this company, and he was homosexual, but he was going to the black church. And I had no choice but to go with him, so I would sneak to church with this guy. And I'm from a fairly religious family, and my impression was that God was looking for me. He had a warrant out for me, and I didn't want to. When they at the end of the service, when they asked you to come to the church or come to Christ or whatever, I would get up and leave right before that and go smoke. And when I come back, that part of the service would be over and go home, right? And for about a month, that's what I did. As soon as you got to that point, I beat it to the door, go smoke, walk a block, come back, and it'd be over. I done got my check off on going to church, and everything was fine. And one day I did that, and I was walking, smoking. I said, "God, I done about screwed this up, and it's about time for you to just get this." It wasn't no great, religiously frothy prayer. I just talked to him and told him, you can have it, man. I'm done. And when I got back into the church, the preacher was still standing there, way past what I thought was the time. That was like God telling me, okay, I heard you, now what you gonna do, right? So I went on up and I joined the church. Wasn't even my denomination. I just reciprocated. He heard me. He let me know he heard me, and I reciprocated. No questions. And I guess one of the cool things about me, though, I got here really with the curse of desperation. I was desperate. I was so desperate that I would do anything you said. And by the grace of God, y'all said, let's work the steps. Y'all didn't put me on no goat. Y'all didn't haze me or nothing like that. Y'all just required me to work the steps. And I'm grateful for that, And so I joined this church. It's not the right church. They don't, I'm from one of them churches where people get up and run and people scream and, I wasn't used to them sitting down humming, you know what I'm saying? I just wasn't used to, I couldn't go to Bob's church, It was an African Methodist Episcopal church. And I'm from a Baptist church, right? So, and also, we was doing marriage reclamation. I got married about 14 months before I got here. And I thought marriage would help me change my behavior a little bit. It hasn't. But what was happening was me and my wife was going to church, and she was happy about it. She was happy about it. And then one day she got this information that somebody in the Baptist church choir was sweet on her sister, and she wanted to know who it was. So we went to the Baptist church, not to go to church, but for my wife to gather intelligence on this guy that was sweet on her sister. And when I walked into that church, it felt like home. And we went back a couple times, not because it was church, but because Terry was still gathering intelligence, right? And one day I just got up and joined the church. And I stayed in that church for 20 years. Y'all ain't heard nothing about the judge and none of that because it didn't happen for the first 3 years of my recovery. I was not a lawyer when I got here. I was a guy with a college degree that was taking his life to hell in a handbasket and didn't know why. And I got here, and one of the amends I had to make, let me tell you about, I got out of the war, got back in college, and we got all the way to the end. I was in pre-law. And everybody was taking the LSAT. I partied the night before, woke up late, got to the test site, got my number 2 pencil in the test form, sat down, went to sleep, slobbered all over the test. I got up, balled the test up, and left. And when the score started coming back, I was lying on y'all. It was racial. They trying to get me. It's all, and I knew it was me. That was the hideous. I knew what I had done, right? And that followed me until I got here, until I put it on my 4-step, that I was resentful at myself for doing that. And my sponsor said, well, just go take the test, man. That's how you make amends. Just go take the test. So I did. I studied. I took the course. I took the test, got a decent score. And he said, well, since you got a decent score, you might as well apply to a law school. You ain't going to go, but at least you can apply, you know what I'm saying? I applied to several law schools. One of them was Northwestern in Illinois, and the other one was Mercer in my state. And all of them rejected me. And the one I rejected was the one, where's Dale? The one in Tulane, Dale. And I was scared to go down there because they party. And I didn't want to go down there because I didn't know, I didn't have a grip on this yet. So I didn't go to that one. And I told him, I tried everything, Spons, and we can't find one, so I guess I'm out. He says, no, I got this little article I want you to read. And it was an article advertising a night unaccredited law school in Atlanta called Atlanta Law School. And I couldn't. I applied and they accepted me, and I went Tuesday through Thursday from 6 to 10 for 3 years. I had to pay as I went. I had to pay for my hours as I signed up, and I did that. And Doc done stole all my fire, took the bar and passed it by a point, and I do say that's God's point. And after I got the license, I helped a guy running for county CEO in my county. I helped him get elected, and as a result of that, he appointed me a part-time county judge in the Recorder's Court of DeKalb County, the same county that I went to jail in. And that's another one of them things about not getting from where I was to where I am without a divine act of providence. And providence is dual. You know, God's preparing the way, but I got to walk. I got to go that way. You know what I'm saying? And I probably wouldn't have went that way if it wasn't for y'all. I would have never took that thing if I didn't have this sponsor cajoling me. He actually fooled me into doing it. You know, you ain't gonna go. you know, he was appealing to my character defects. I didn't want to see. You know, and he got me. He knew me. He got me. You know, and. That's how I didn't become a judge because you know, I got all these accolades and I got the right kind of resume. I got that job because I became a lawyer and helped somebody. I helped somebody, you know, helped somebody get elected, and he thought it was cool. I helped the governor one time, and he put me on the film committee of the state, and I'm one of the reasons why you don't have to pay taxes if you make a film in Georgia. You know, that's what happened, man. That, you know, and you know, out of all of that, right? It seems to me when I look back over it, the absolute best thing I ever did. I got college degrees, I got law degrees, I got prestigious committee seats. Seemed like to me the best thing I really ever did was pick up a white chip. That's one of my highest accomplishments, really, because I was just, you know, I was just a drunk man, unmanageable, powerless, didn't know how to use God. I knew God existed, but I didn't know how to incorporate with him, and that's step 11, right? And even Bob says them people over there in church know something about God, so, you know, and I didn't go because of my step work. I went because I had a nosy wife, and but the preacher saw something. He put me on the board of trustees. I helped spend their money. I helped make sure they agreed on what to buy and what not to buy for 20 years. You know, and finally they hired another preacher, and that preacher and the congregation didn't get along, and he left, and I went with him. He was a cool preacher, and that church is only 11 years old, and 2 Sundays ago they ordained me a deacon. They asked me to do it in 19. It took them that long to finally make up their mind that I was worthy, you know. And I was, you know, it's just like my background check. I sure hope they don't find out about that stolen van, you know. But at the end, I had to tell them about me, and I told them that. You know, I left the church, I committed crimes, I became addicted to drugs, and came back to Christ, and that's who I am. You know, that's who I am. You know, and I don't know whether it was Barack Obama or Denzel Washington, I don't know which one it was, but he said, there are 2 important dates in a man's life: the day he's born and the day he finds out why he's here. And, you know, my best shot at finding out why I'm here is right in here. You know, I might have already found it. I don't know. But if I have, I think Bob said it. You know, it's just cool walking in synchronicity with a higher power. You know, not waiting on a foxhole to come up for me to pray. I got my share of those. But right now, I pray all the time, be honest with you. I pray all the time, you know. Me and Doc got this ritual. If I'm going to speak, we're going to pray right before I do it, because I don't want to get up here and let my ego run wild like he lets his, you know what I'm saying? That's my boy, though. That's my boy. You know I love him. And that's part of the relationship. I'm trying to help the guy, you know. So step 12 is really, really, you know, when I talk to my sponsees, I say it's a dual reason why you're doing this. It ain't gonna really work if you just get what you gotta get and leave. It ain't really gonna work. It's almost, you know, I don't have an analogy for it, but you know, it's worse than kissing your sister. That's as close as I could get. If you don't get into step 12, you know what I'm saying? If you don't get into step 12, man, you're really, really missing a lot, you know. Tuesday, I believe it was, me and one of my sponsees went through his 5th step, and this guy's really courageous. He went right to the stuff, man. He went right to the stuff. I'm going, trying to keep a straight face listening to some of that crap, right? And he wanted me to console him that he'd done the right thing, you know. I said, yes, you did, bro, you did. We go. I told him the same thing, my sponsor. I'm gonna leave. You think about what you just told me, and you pray. And if you're gonna do the deal, it's on you to do it tonight, you know. And I told him at the beginning, this ain't just for you. Somebody gonna come in the room and ain't gonna hear nobody but you. And you know, if you're blessed like me, the guys I heard were prepared to help me. They weren't, you know, they weren't bunting. They weren't giving out wooden nickels. They gave me this. You know what I'm saying? And this changed my life. So it's on me to be ready to help that guy, man. Just like they don't know who it was. They were fussing over. My sponsor took me to his sponsor, and I heard my sponsor say, "God sent him to you. What you bringing him to me for?" You know what I'm saying? You feel, you're standing there waiting on them to finish talking, right? And but that's what's gonna happen. God's gonna send somebody to you. And it ain't necessarily on you to help him. It's necessary for you to help yourself. You know, I come in here selfish. I come in here worrying about all the shit that I'm going through. And I leave, you know, being prepared to help you with the stuff you're going through. And that is the true, really, reward of recovery, is to be able to help somebody. You know, to help somebody who's suffering from the same thing I'm suffering from. And you never know where you're going to find them, man. I had this client, the evidence on his rap sheet says he's a pretty good candidate to be here. But he had a pretty bad time, and he was about to go away for 20 years. And you know, we got to know one another. I didn't try to, you know, I was maintaining my anonymity, to say the least. And he said, "Man, I want to pray." I said, "You want to pray?" He said, "Yeah, I want to pray before we go out there." And I said, "Okay." And we prayed. And he prayed one of the most humble and sincere prayers I'd heard in a long time. And when he said amen, he had a beam in his face, you know, that only somebody like us could recognize. And I said to him, "You're going to be all right, man." I said, "You're going in there, you're going to probably help some guys get through some stuff. You done been in here." He done been in there enough times to know the drill, you know what I'm saying? And but something happened to him that morning, and I was able to see it. You know, I wasn't just some guy that's wanting to, you know, turn in my slip and get my check. You know what I'm saying? You know, court appointed, you know what I'm saying? And it was just a cool experience seeing that guy break a threshold. And the same thing happens here, you know. My guy that I was with Tuesday, he's bright and intelligent. He's going up the career ladder, and all that got in the way of his step work. But he had it. He had it because he didn't want to disappoint me. You know what I'm saying? And who am I not to be there? He said, "Can we do it Tuesday?" And I said, "Yeah, I'll be there." You know, I think Jack was talking about if they call, we got to be ready to go. Because, you know, an alcoholic's level of commitment is fleeting. It might not be there an hour later. You know what I'm saying? It might not. You know, and only somebody like me could understand that because, you know, I was ready to go get my clothes and not come back. You know what I'm saying? And I guess Jack and Bob got me wanting to share this with you. I don't know where it's going to fit. It ain't part of my story. But one of my sponsees told me this one day. He said there's 4 levels of consciousness. And I don't know where he got it from, so I can't quote who gave it to him. And if y'all don't get it, it's his fault. He said the first level of consciousness is that I don't know that I don't know. And the second level of consciousness is now I know I don't know. I don't know which one of them you can attribute to ignorance, but both of them qualify. And then the first one is I don't know that I know. And the fourth one is I know that I know. And that's not chronological, it's not linear, you know, it's spiritual. And when I got here, there was a lot of stuff I did not know that I did not know. And I stuck around long enough to find out that there is some stuff in here that I know I don't know. And I had a sponsor, and he showed me some things about me that I didn't see yet until he pointed them out. And while I was listening to Bob and Jack, there's some things I know, and they're all pretty good. You know what I'm saying? There's some pretty good stuff. You know, some confirmations came through to me this week. I must be doing this right because they're talking about what I'm doing. You know what I'm saying? And that's why this group is so powerful, man. We ain't the ones coming in here trying to find out. We're coming in here to hone our skills. We're here to hone our skills. We're here, you know. And yeah, I remember when we used to go to retreats and I was a newcomer, man, we'd leave the retreat and go find the sickest meeting we could and just try to pour all of this on them in an hour. And they'd look at us like, who are these crazy fanatics, you know? We just wanted to share it, man. You know, it's powerful stuff, man. It's like some good dope. Yeah, I got that shit from him, you know. So, that's pretty much it, guys. Doc them took all my time, so I don't want to push it. Y'all are going to getting bored and stuff like that. So, my name's Jule. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.